Hello and welcome to my channel. This is a very bad drawing I made of a Mogwai from the movie Gremlins. I've drawn two different heads because I'm going to make two different creatures. And to do that I'm going to need a lot of foam. I picked up these offcuts at a local scrap store. And this is 1mm thick foam sheet which you can pick up just about anywhere. I add contact cement to the necessary areas, and the same goes to where they're going to be adhered to. I'm wanting this long piece to be a little bit more rounded, and the quickest and easiest way of doing that is wrapping it in this sheet. Because there's only glue on one side, it will wrap around quite loosely, and that's how you get your natural curves. Out of this length I'm going to make the Mogwai's legs. The end result will see it covered in fur and disguise the shape further. Mogwais only have short legs, so I've got enough if I cut this into 4 equal parts. I'm going to create the arms in a very similar way. So as you can see here, I have 4 legs and 4 arms. The arms are longer because this includes the shoulder. I need to trim a bit of it off at an angle, and I'll show you why in just a moment. So when it's attached to the arm, it looks more natural. It would be boring for all these arms to remain perfectly straight. So by cutting out a wedge shape in the middle, I can create a bend. First I discard the cut section, and then I apply contact cement to the newly exposed areas, wait for it to dry, and then push them together, and that will give me a bend in the arm. I stick a piece of modelling wire into the end of each limb, and this serves two purposes. It not only helps connect two parts together, but it also gives me something to hold while I'm working on it. To help these Mogwai stand up, I stick on some tie weights underneath the leg, and you can see that's working already. And now I'm going to start sculpting the feet, and I picked up this cheap children's foam clay, and I sculpted it into the rough shape of a foot and pushed it underneath the leg. I will add on the toes once this part is dried, otherwise applying soft foam to soft foam can be quite messy. The middle one goes on first, then is blended into place. They appear to be different lengths depending which source material you go by, so that's something to bear in mind. The toenail is made through the impressions of a sculpting tool. Then it's a matter of repeating the same process for the remaining toes. The foam tends to swell when hardening, so you may need to edge in those details again. The hands are created in a very similar way to the toes. There's the main body, plus 2 fingers and a thumb. The digits are a little bit longer though, and they have knuckles. And when finished, they should look something like this. Now we can put these two on the side and let them solidify, and in the meantime we can transform these two massive blocks into 2 bodies. It's just a matter of slowly trimming off the excess until we get something more like the shape. Bear in mind that the Mogwai have a bottom and a belly, so they do need to be bottom heavy, and if I cut off too much I can always stick some more back on. I also inset the area for the arms, so they're in a more natural position. I've run out of large block for the face, so I'll glue 3 thinner sheets together, and those dimensions look about right. So I'll cut those out in a rugby ball shape. I also tapered the edges to soften them up a bit. I'll work on both heads at the same time, this is so I can get the dimensions accurate. Using some 1mm foam I sketch out the ears. Once cut out, each ear is flipped over so I can draw around it and make an identical copy. The design though are going to be different for each Mogwai. After a quick check, the size looks about right, so then I can start adding on some detail. For that I cut out thin pieces of foam and place them on to represent the veins in the reference images. By giving them a once over with a heat gun, they will warp slightly. This will make them appear more natural rather than completely flat. After cutting slots in the sides of the head, I glue them in place. With everything put together so far, they're beginning to look like a pair of Mogwais. Now I need to dig out the foam clay again and add some additional details, predominantly to the top ridge of the ear, which is thicker than the rest of the area. I also have these clay discs which I need to convert into eyes. All I need to do is turn them around and use some different coloured paint pens to create the details. It's not easy painting on glass by trying to make the circles as accurate as possible. Once I'm happy with it, I glue them down to a white sheet of paper. This will also create the white of the eyes. Since I don't want to risk any of the ink bleeding, I use PVA glue, as is usually seen as the safe option. Then it's just a matter of cutting them out and sticking them in place. These are a little bit on the large side. It was either too large or too small. Hopefully it will add to the cuteness. Then it's back onto the foam clay again to sculpt in the eyelids. They're going to be placed slightly different for each Mogwai, but I still need to sculpt in the creases. And that's followed by the tiny little button nose. Then the final piece to make is the mouth. I found it easier to sculpt this in one solid piece, and once it's secured in place, I use the sculpting tool to open up the mouth itself. And the little guy is now smiling. Mogwais are basically gremlins in practice, so if you can make them look mischievous, then go for it. So let's have one last look at the final form before the paint and fur is added. Yeah, that's a bit of a horror show on its own. Pale flesh colour is perfect for the Mogwai, and this applies to every exposed piece of skin. I also recommend putting on 2 coats, so nothing shows through underneath. For the nails, I painted them a slightly different shade. Then I brushed on a clear satin for the extra sheen. Then to finish it off, I added a brown wash everywhere. This will make the Mogwais a little bit grubby, because after all, they're not allowed to wash their hands. I've come up with a colour scheme for each character, and the fur needs to be added on in strips. This way they can be overlaid and have a natural blend. Once all the fur has been added, I'll go over with a pair of scissors and neaten them up. But for now, I'm working on the legs and arms. Each character will be composed of 2 colours. One will be black and white, and the other will be brown and white. And once the legs are nice and hairy, they can be permanently glued into place. So continue building up the fur a piece at a time. Then once I get up to the chest, it's time to glue the arms into place, because that way I can blend them in with one solid strip. The patterns that I've come up with are truly unique, as I didn't want to replicate anything from the movies, because after all, we've seen Gizmo thousands of times. So I'll get both bodies completed, leaving the head till last. And these guys are now looking like they've sneezed a little bit too hard. Right, you know the process by now. I'm going to paint these guys up, make them furry, and stick them on. Although that's easier said than done. I've certainly saved the most complicated till last. As you can see, I'm putting it together a little piece at a time, and the direction of the fur mostly goes from the centre outwards. And after a few frustrating hours, I was able to complete my Mogwais. All they need now is a trip to the barber's. Starting off with some hairspray to get that fur under some sort of control. It's become matted from all that handling. So after a quick spray, I was able to comb most of it out, and this got both my Mogwais into a reasonable shape. So I can now go over them with a pair of hairdressing scissors and give them a good trim. Mogwais usually have quite short fur, but I'm going to keep mine a little bit on the long side as it helps hide all the seams. And with that, my Mogwais are finished. They were certainly my most challenging project to date. Although they're not perfect, I'm fairly happy with the result. But I still have some foam clay that needs using up. So any suggestions of what movie creatures I could make next would be greatly appreciated. To drop them down below. Preferably something on the smaller side, as I don't have the room for something large. As nice as it would be to have a full-size Yeti in my house, it's just not practical. Remember to keep them away from bright light. Sunlight will kill them. Never get them wet. And most important of all, never ever feed them after midnight. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if I can do it, so can you.